In the early morning hours of November 13, 1974, the seemingly ordinary house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, transformed into a ghastly crime scene. Ronald DeFeo Jr., tormented by malevolent voices in his head, skulked through the halls wielding a .35 caliber rifle. He mercilessly shot and killed 6 members of his own family while they slept: his parents, Louise and Ronald DeFeo Sr., and his siblings, 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old John Matthew. Ronald Joseph DeFeo Jr., born on September 26, 1951, became infamous for a horrific crime in 1974 that shocked the small town of Amityville, New York. He was the oldest child in the DeFeo family, who lived in a house at 112 Ocean Avenue. The family included Ronald Sr., who worked in the car dealership business, his wife Louise DeFeo, and their 4 children, Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John. In the early hours of November 13, 1974, when the entire DeFeo family was asleep, Ronald Jr. committed a terrible act. He used a .35 caliber rifle to shoot and kill each family member while they slept. The evidence showed that some victims were awake when they were shot. The tragic scene was discovered later that day when Ronald Jr. frantically sought help at a nearby bar. Initially, Ronald Jr. tried to blame a mob hitman named Louis Fellini for the murders, but however, inconsistencies in his story did arise during subsequent interviews, leading to further investigation, and Ronald ultimately confessed to the crime. He said he couldn't stop once he started shooting. The reasons why Ronald DeFeo Jr. did such a terrible thing are still not clear, but some ideas have been talked about. First, the DeFeo family was having money problems. Ronald Sr. was having a hard time with his business, and they owed money. Some people think Ronald Jr. might have killed his family to get their life insurance money. Second, the family didn't get along well. There were lots of fights, especially between Ronald Jr. and his dad. It wasn't a happy home. Third, Ronald Jr. had issues with drugs and alcohol. Some say this might have made him act violently. Fourth, Ronald Jr. seemed to have mental problems. His lawyers said he had something called a dissociative disorder, which can mess with how you see things. There's also a weird idea that maybe something spooky in the house made Ronald Jr. do it. Before the DeFeo family, something bad happened in that house in the past. Some people think ghosts or evil things in the house made Ronald Jr. do the terrible things. But it's likely that a mix of money worries, family fights, drugs, mental issues, and maybe even some creepy stuff in the house all played a part in what happened. In the end, we still don't know exactly why Ronald DeFeo Jr. did what he did. DeFeo Jr.'s grisly crimes would later become infamously known as the Amityville murders. His defense team attempted to plead insanity, claiming that he was under the influence of these malevolent voices and unable to control his actions. However, a deeper look into DeFeo Jr.'s life reveals a troubled childhood marked by an abusive father and a passive mother. Substance abuse followed him into adulthood, and he had a history of violent outbursts, even threatening his father with a gun. Despite these struggles, his parents allowed him to live at home with a weekly stipend, hoping it would help. Ronald Jr. was eventually found guilty of second-degree murder and received 6 concurrent sentences in prison. Was sentenced on December 4, 1975. He remained there for 47 years until his death on March 12, 2021. The murders at 112 Ocean Avenue left a lasting impact on the community and inspired the famous book and movie, The Amityville Horror. The question of whether Ronald DeFeo Jr. acted alone or had help in the Amityville murders is still up for debate. Here's what we know. First, Ronald was found guilty of killing his family. He admitted to doing it by himself using a .35 caliber rifle. His parents and siblings were all found dead in their beds at their home in Amityville, New York. Ronald's confession and the evidence found at the scene pointed to him as the main culprit. However, there are other claims that suggest Ronald might not have acted alone. Over time, Ronald gave different stories about what happened. He said he wasn't the only one involved. He mentioned his sister Dawn and two friends, Augie and Bobby, as possibly helping him. But some people think he only said this because he was desperate. There are also some strange theories that say maybe ghosts or spirits had something to do with it. But there's no solid proof for these ideas. Even though Ronald was the one found guilty and sent to prison, the question of whether he had help or if something supernatural was involved still gets people talking about the tragic events at the Amityville house. The house itself, originally numbered 112 Ocean Avenue, became infamous. In December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz purchased the house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville. The property had been empty for 13 months after the gruesome murders committed by Ronald DeFeo Jr. in 1974. The Lutz family moved in a year after the murders, and their experiences within its walls would inspire the chilling tale known as the Amityville Horror. George Lutz claimed that he woke up every night at 3:15. The exact time when the former residents had been brutally killed. The Lutz family reported unexplainable hauntings, driving them to leave the property after just 1 month. Here's what they said they experienced. First, they heard weird noises, like footsteps and voices, even when no one else was around. Then, they felt cold spots suddenly appear, making them shiver for no reason. Even though it was winter, they found flies swarming in the house, which was really strange. But the scary stuff didn't stop there. The family started having nightmares and seeing things that weren't really there. They also smelled bad odors that they couldn't explain. Sometimes, they even felt like something was touching them or pushing them, even though they couldn't see anything. All these terrifying experiences made the Lutz family flee from the house, leaving everything behind. Their story scared a lot of people and made the house even more famous for being haunted, whether it was real or not. It's a scary tale that still gives people goosebumps. The house's address was later changed to 108 Ocean Avenue in an attempt to deter curious tourists. The house at 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, New York, has captivated people's imaginations for decades. After the Lutz family left, many events unfolded that kept the house in the spotlight. The house changed owners a few times, new people moved in without knowing its scary past. They even changed the address to 108 Ocean Avenue to try to stop people from visiting. But everyone still knew it as the Amityville Horror House. The story of the house became super famous through books, movies, and documentaries. Lots of people read the book The Amityville Horror by Jay Anson, and the movie based on it made the story even more popular. Some people didn't believe the scary stuff that happened in the house. They thought maybe the Lutz family made it up to make money. Others tried to prove that ghosts weren't real by investigating the house. Many tourists visited the house because of its spooky reputation. They wanted to see the creepy windows and the weird shapes on the third floor. Some felt scared while visiting, but others thought it was all just hype. Different families lived in the house after the Lutz family. Some liked the attention, but others wanted privacy. The house also got some changes over time, so it didn't look exactly the same. Whether the bad spirits in the house made DeFeo Jr. do bad things or not, the Amityville horror story will always be part of history. It's a mix of sadness, scary stuff, and maybe ghosts.